Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I do miss Jessica Biel.
And I'm Gary, and today we're going to review and discuss The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which released in 2003, from writer Scott Kosar and director Marcus Nispel. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows 5 young people as they make their way through Texas to get to a Leonard Skinner concert. Along the way, they pick up a hitchhiker who, after committing suicide, causes them to stop, and they have to seek help. Along the way, they come across the Hewitt household and come across Thomas Hewitt, known as Leatherface, and his chainsaw.
Yes! Aaron! So at the beginning of the 2000s is when we started to see a whole slew of horror remakes. And Michael Bay founded Platinum Dunes, and this was their first movie. And it was a remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And at this point, I was already like, you know what? If it's Michael Bay, its name is attached to it. It's trash. I'm not interested. I'm not going to watch it. And I passed on this film when it first came out. I was like, I've just no interest. Like, there's been several attempts already at remaking Texas. What makes you think Michael Bay and his production company is going to do any better than everybody else?
Yeah.
I smell bullshit.
And then I got around to watching it. I was like, yeah, you know, it wasn't too bad. I guess I might give Michael Bay's production company some other chances. And we both pretty much enjoyed the 2009 Friday the 13th remake.
Yeah.
But then I believe there's also the same company that would remake Nightmare on Elm Street. And so definitely unbalanced in terms of what they're putting out.
Yeah.
But I will say one thing I did like about this remake is that they brought back the original cinematographer, Daniel Pearl. And he had been working on music videos pretty much non-stop throughout his career. And for 15 years had been working with this film's director on those music videos.
Yes.
And so when the opportunity came up, he was like, look, I'm being asked to go and do this. I think you should direct it. And he said, no, I'm not directing a Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. That is doomed to fail. I think he even said, that's blasphemy.
Yeah.
But the cinematographer was like, look, I'm taking this job. It was the start of my career. It's going to be the end of my career, and I want you to direct it while I shoot it. And he was like, well, if you put it that way, I'll do that, and we'll work together on this as well. And I think just before we even get into the film, I want to say I think this is one of the most striking and vibrant and beautiful looking installments in this franchise that we've seen yet.
Yeah. I remember when this one was dropping, and there was talk of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. And up to this point, obviously, after seeing the original 2, 3, and 4, I was like, nope, I'm good. I don't see how you can even top the original. Unless you're copying it shot for shot. And we already know that if you do that after Psycho, you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot. And like you said as well, you're seeing that Michael Bay's name is slapped to it, but he's just producing, and he just kind of started the Transformers saga at that point. He'd already come off The Rock, I think it was, as well. So we knew his style, and I was like, how's that style going to even come close to working with Texas Chainsaw Massacre with its long sweeping shots of the countryside and this hot sun? And you're thinking, well, hold on a minute. If you look at the production level of the original, they literally had it on a shoestring budget. They threw some stuff together. They made it work, but even then it was banned. So at least in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if you've got Michael Bay, then people have got some faith in it. He's got some money. Let's see what he can do. But I didn't rush out to see it. I actually didn't get around to seeing this until I was getting ready to watch the beginning, because Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a really easy story for me, isn't it? Why do I need to rush and watch this movie where I'm expecting a guy with a chainsaw to cut up a bunch of teens?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, that's what you're tuning in for. And I do also appreciate this film's introduction, where they actually brought back John Larroquette to do the narration at the beginning.
Yes.
And this time around, they thought, let's update from the original and actually follow a documentary team following a police officer going into this house after the events of the film, reporting on the claw marks, the fingernails, the hair, and then having obviously the text on the screen as well, and the narration just explaining what has happened.
I think you put it brilliantly there, is that they're remaking it, yes, but they're really updating it. You know, yes, they can copy the same shots, and yes, they can talk about the same things, but they have to bring it up. So with this, he's not actually called Leatherface or at any point during the film. I don't think
They
so.
call him Thomas, I think.
That's it. He's called Thomas Hewitt, and we get this backstory, which I'm just like, that's brilliant. You're updating his character instead of just having him as this masked, no talking crazy man with a chainsaw. But I actually, like I said as well, with the police introduction, walking down into the steps, we're seeing the basement, we're hearing the dripping of water, and then we're cutting to the teens, you know, driving along, singing Sweet Home Alabama. And I'm like, yay, you're all going to die.
Yeah, they're on their way to a Lynyrd Skynyrd concert. And, well, a little bit of some of the songs that they were listening to, she mentions, like, they better have Freebird. I was like, according to when this film came out, the band was still writing Freebird at this point, so
Yeah.
they never even would have heard it. But I was like, that's fine, they're listening to Lynyrd Skynyrd. Rock on.
Yeah.
But we do have quite a collection of characters here. Obviously, our star is Jessica Biel, who's playing Erin, and she has her boyfriend Kemper, played by Eric Balfour.
Yeah.
And in the back, you've got Mike Vogel, Andy, making out with Pepper.
Yeah. Did you recognise Jonathan Tucker, who plays Morgan?
Yes, I fear like after his events here, he'd go on a holiday to a ruin somewhere.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't ruin him. Well, I was just like, oh man, this is just a kind of still the start of these young actors' careers. Like I said, Eric Balfour, up to this point, I'd only ever seen him in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
That's right, yeah.
And then he'd go off to do Skyline, and I know he does a few other films. But for me as well, at this point, Jessica Biel's trying to be like your new age scream queen. But funnily enough, I always found her more of an action actress. You know, she can act with the material that she's got, but she's not able, for me, to be like weak in our eyes. She's always so strong, and this film actually does that. There's little bits that come along that elevate her character up more from the original, because in this one she's known as Erin Hardasty, which is obviously a callback to Sally Hardasty from the original. And for this review as well, I didn't realize, but you've got them driving along, and from the original movie, you know, they pick up a hitchhiker, and the hitchhiker cuts his hand and causes them to obviously stop the van. In this one, they've already picked up the hitchhiker.
Yeah.
Pepper's a hitchhiker. I never got that the first time around. I thought they were just
And they
bunches of
picked her
friends.
up like a day ago.
Yeah, and she's already making out with one of the guys in there because they've just met each other.
Well, they're probably all going to the Lynyrd Skynyrd concert together, so yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's the 70s. It's all
Yeah.
about free love. But you've got Kemper sat there looking in his rear view, looking at them making out. And so I'm like, dude, your girlfriend is like right there. Oh, yeah, it's the 70s.
Yeah. And they're passing around a spliff as well, and there's some dialogue about how much did they buy, and there's also this
Pinata that they filled up with weed as well from
that's
Mexico.
right. Yeah. So there's a little bit of relationship kind of issue there, and she at one point talks about a ring, and he's like, oh, one day, you know, you never know.
Yeah.
And peace offering gives her the spliff, which she chucks out the window.
Yeah.
It's like, oh. But now, apparently, there was originally scripted a plot line that she may have actually been pregnant, which is why she throws it out the window, but she's just not telling anyone why.
Yeah.
But it's not long after this, but they do find another hitchhiker on the road, except this girl's not looking quite as lively as the one in the back seat.
Yeah. She's been through some kind of trauma. And I like this. Since the first time I watched this, I love this switch. You know, the fact that we've got one victim right at the start. Like, this is still like 10 minutes in. And she gets into the back and she doesn't want to return to where they're heading. They're actually driving her kind of back from where she's just
That
escaped.
actually annoys me because the girl's walking in the same direction they're driving, and they carry on driving the same direction she was walking, and then 2 seconds later she's like, you're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's like, but they didn't turn at any point.
Well, that's it. This road seems to just be going straight. And on top of that, they're driving past locations that will keep cropping up in the film. So I'm like, how does this town area work? But you've got to kind of set this all up for everything that's going to be coming later. It's like at this point as well, she gets a bit crazy. She tries to cause Kemper to drive off the road. And then she reaches in between her legs and pulls out a gun. Now, was that gun inside her?
Well, we do find out that she gave birth a while ago because her child will turn up later.
Actually, no, that's not true. I believe that child is the one that we see in a picture.
But isn't she in that picture?
That's her with her family. I think
Yeah.
it's her mum, her dad, her little brother, her baby brother, and her. And that picture will
yeah.
keep coming up because, you know, the film is just establishing that obviously these people that are chainsawing people have been doing this for a very long time, and it is a really brilliant way to establish that the Hewitts have been doing this for a long time. So it's not just a random event. But yeah, she pulls out this gun and then puts it into her mouth. And I've always loved this shot.
It's a pretty gross shot as the camera pans back through the hole in the back of her head.
Yeah.
And we can see everyone in the vehicle through the hole as the camera pulls all the way out the back. And I was like, that's gnarly.
Yeah, right out the window to
Yeah.
then establish the van so then everybody can come back out. And I know that there's like a cut at one point, but even in 2003, I was like, man, that's really just hit you right in the face. You know, this girl is dead. Her brains are all splat in the back of the van. And Kemper is now being kind of... not forced, but put into a situation where it's just like, look, we've got these pinata full of weed, but we've got a situation here and we've got to get the cops. My girlfriend's not happy with me anyway, and my friends are going to be even more pissed off. But I'm like, how does your friendship work with Andy and Morgan? Like, are you college buddies? Are you just friends that are hanging out? You know, like, how close are you to each other to actually be in this serious situation? Because I know Pepper's a hitchhiker.
Right.
So she's thinking, man, I wish I hadn't been picked up right now. But she's actually been given all this dialogue about how, like, the universe has brought us all together and it can't be just random that we're all going to get to this situation. And they decide that obviously they're going to drive along, find a hospital, which they can't find, and
Right.
instead they find a gas station.
I mean, of course you do. It's Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. So yeah, they go in there to find help. And well, this lady, she's not really very helpful.
No.
But she does call the sheriff. And she's like, the sheriff said he's busy, but he'll meet you at the old mill. So go there and he'll meet you there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thanks, lady.
Yeah, the kids are like, no, why? That's like totally stupid. And they keep coming up with ideas of, should we dump the body? You know, what are we going to do with the van? You know, do we clean it and stuff? But driving up to the old mill as well, they then have to sit there for an extra 30 minutes.
And waiting for the sheriff, but they see nothing. Well, they see a shadow move in the background. Two of them spot it. So they go wandering to explore. And eventually they find this near emaciated child.
Yeah, Jedediah.
That's right.
And it's not fully explained how his connection is to the family, but later on we do find out, like, the woman that we've just seen, Luda May, is his grandma. So there's some kind of family relation there. And he explains to the kids, look, yeah, sheriff's not coming. He's at home drunk. So then there is still more of a conflict between the group about if they should just dump the body or not. And Jessica Biel she's your strong heroine character.
Well, she is. Now, she is strong-willed and opinionated, and she does lead almost everyone here to their deaths.
Oh, totally, massively. Yep.
Like, she was the one who wanted to pick up the hitchhiker in the first place.
Yep.
She was the one who wanted to go and get help. She was the one who refused to dump the body.
Yep.
She was the one who was like, we're waiting here for the sheriff and we're not leaving when they could just leave right now.
Yep.
And then she is also the one that leads her boyfriend and then Andy to the house of death.
Yeah. It's brilliant. It's brilliantly thrown together, you know, because, like we said, with this first initial visit to the house, you have Kemper and Erin walking up, and it's great, huge update
Yes.
of the house from the original, you know. The entrance, especially when you see it again in Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning, depending on which way you're watching these two movies, it's like the Amityville house to me. It's just got this look that I'm like, don't go in there. Don't fucking go in there. And they knock on the front door, and we're met up with an amputee in a wheelchair. Now, you do find out later on that his name is Monty, and he lives here with his family. And he will only let Erin into the house to call the sheriff. Kemper has to stay outside. So Erin goes in, and she's calling the sheriff. Monty takes himself off, doesn't he, to go to the toilet.
That's right.
To cause like a distraction. But while this is going on, it intercuts back to Andy Morgan and Pepper at the van at the mill, and Sheriff Hoyt turns up.
Excuse me, you mind getting the fuck out of my way, son? She ain't gonna bite you. She's deader than a goddamn doornail. Get a hold of her and pick her up.
Sir.
Arlie Ermey is absolutely frightening and terrifying. He steals the scene. He terrifies these kids by his presence. And and I also must give some credit to the actors of the others here, because their reaction to him feels really authentic. Like he was a drill instructor in the past.
Yes.
And so I can only imagine that he is actually terrifying these actors.
Yeah.
And so they're giving the reaction of a lifetime.
I mean, you got to imagine what it's like outside of filming. You know, they're stood there on the set and he's being all nice and polite and probably saying to them, like, you know, just don't react too much to what I'm going to say, but at the same time be aware of what I'm going to say. And then the camera turns on and he's screaming in their face, you know, being offensive. But at the same time, it's how fun he can be. Right. When he whips out the cling film and he's just like, yeah, let's cling film her up. And, oh, look at it. Brain here and there's, I like to cop a feel when they're dead. I'm like, oh my god.
It's gross. Yeah. But you can't take your eyes off him because, like, what's he going to do?
Yeah.
But yeah, it does cut back to Erin, and then she's helping Monty up off the floor. And he's also copping a feel of her as well.
Yeah. He's just using it just to be able to, you know, feel her up. But while she's there, Kemper's looking for her. I mean, how big this house gets when you're just stood outside, I don't know. Because he just walks through the door and has to walk through like 3 rooms to not even be close to the bathroom where she is.
Right. And then, well, just like the original film, Leatherface makes his appearance out with the hammer, bump, and then grabs him off and slams the door behind, which gives Erin a jump to go try to look for him. Eventually, she can't find him, so she decides to head back to the others.
Now, this initial scare, like we said, I know it's more of an update from the original one. You know, the camera angle, the hammer, the door sliding, it's all in there. How do you feel it compares? 'Cause
the original was way, way better.
Yeah, that's how I kind of felt as well.
The original has no music for it. It comes out of nowhere. It doesn't, and it's brighter lit.
Yes.
I will say they both happen as suddenly and out of nowhere as each other.
Yeah.
But there's something raw and documentary-esque about the original with that no music, and the fact that there's no music afterwards and things carry on as normal, seemingly. Whereas the remake, it has the blood splat on the thing. He's still with his legs kicking as he's being dragged away, but it doesn't have that raw impact of seeing it for the first time in the original.
It's definitely not bad. Like, not even the worst kind of remake shot you'd ever see. But like Gary said, it's such the original so well lit that this darkness. I wanted to see more of a close up of his mask, because when you first see him in this shot, you have Erin then decide that she's going to wander all the way back to her friends, and she gets there and they inform her that the sheriff did turn up and he's taken the dead body and we can go. Oh, where's Kemper? Oh, I thought he'd come back. Well, no. Who's got the van keys? Erin's got the van keys, and she's like, no, we're not leaving unless we get Kemper. And Andy's like, okay, I'll come with you. And I'm like, guys, stop splitting up. You know, you've been involved in like a suicide, your mate's missing, the cops have taken the dead body away. Like, I get that it's a horror movie and it's the 1970s, but at least I wanted some kind of emotional response from them to think like, look, let's start working as a group. All of them should have gone to the house, and then maybe all of them should have been killed off instead of them being split up, because it's a case of like, come on then, Andy, I'll take you to the house. Erin's going to distract Monty again with her womanly ways.
Well, I was going to say, we all get distracted during this approach to the house where the camera does that tracking shot.
The Michael Bay tracking shot.
Yep.
I mean, for a second, I thought it was Megan Fox I was looking at.
Hi, it's me again. I'm really sorry to bother you,
But yeah, that's it. I love the way that Jessica Biel's probably stood there on set going, so how high do you want my vest to be in this shot so you can see my midriff? Oh, I'm going to capture you here, you know. Andy makes his way into the house and is making his way around, but he fucking drops some shit in the kitchen. Like, if you were in my house, I'm not a chainsaw wielding maniac, but if you come into my house sneakingly and start breaking shit, I'll be pissed off too.
Yeah, and if you had a chainsaw, you might just chase them out of the house with it.
Yes.
And that's what happens here. They get chased around the house, they get chased outside, they're running through the laundry that's hanging on the line.
How many sheets?
I don't know, it felt like hundreds.
I'm like, What? You are definitely cleaning your sheets a lot more than you're cleaning the inside of your house. There were pigs inside the house, and there's all these white sheets. Obviously, it's there for aesthetics, isn't it? Because once he gets the chainsaw swipe on Andy's leg, you see the blood splat, and I suppose that was what I noticed as well at this point was for 2003, they must have been so worried about how the violence came across on screen again, that they didn't want the film to be banned or to lose anything in the box office, that they are just updating what we've already seen. And yet, in comparison to horror movies that would come after 2003, it seems very tame.
Yeah, it does, yeah. But it's kind of like the middle ground now from the original to here to like Terrifier.
Yeah.
So, like it still gives you some blood splatter and it implies a lot of the grisly stuff, kind of like the original film.
Yeah.
But there's still some splatter here for us to enjoy as well.
And after coming off of 2, 3, and 4, I'm like, yes, you are definitely getting the violence back into this movie.
Yeah. But there's one thing we can say as well is that this film tonally is consistent in that it's not really pushing the humor.
Yes.
Unless you kind of get some of the humor from the Arlie Ermey Sheriff Hoyt character just being so disgusting. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is. Leatherface takes Andy into the house and he hooks him up on that hook, which I just think is such a... It lingers throughout the movie. You'll see him again still hooked up there.
Yeah.
And it's such a great effect that every time he just tries to move himself and lift himself off of it, the hook just keeps ripping deeper
even
into
more
him.
And he falls back onto it. Yeah. It's pretty gross. And again, like being hooked, it felt better in the original, but being hooked here, it's fine. It's still like the image of the hook and then him being placed on it, it's still enough in your mind to be like, yeah, that's unpleasant.
Yeah. Now at this point as well, Arlie has returned to the van and has taken Morgan.
Right? Yeah.
I like this gunshot,
this whole
suicide sequence. Yeah, it was
because he turns
amazing.
back up and he finds the joint in the ashtray.
Yeah, when Aaron's returned. Yeah,
exactly. And so he's just like, "What is this?" And he calls everybody out. Everyone face down into the dirt.
Yes.
And then he gets Morgan in the back and he's like, "Look, I need you to tell me exactly what happened with this girl and this gun." And Morgan sat there with a gun in his mouth, like crying, vomiting, sweating, and eventually plucks up the courage to turn the gun back on Sheriff Hoyt and pull the trigger. But of course, there's no bullets left in there.
You caught him. I've got myself a murderer.
You don't have the fucking balls, do you?
Pull the fucking trigger! Fuck you!
And he takes him all the way back to the Hewitt house as well, and basically just gives him to Leatherface to have. And Erin is like, she's still at the van with Pepper, but Leatherface turns up here.
That's it, when she manages to hotwire the car, and she proves, like, because she was like, "Oh, I was in juvie at one point," and so...
Yeah. That's one moment she's being raised by boys because she can lockpick with her knife. She can hotwire a car because she was in juvie. I was just like, wow, this girl's really versatile. Why was she whinging at Kemper about buying 2 pounds of weed? She probably had the connections to sell it. But this kill as well, Leatherface starts to chase them. He starts to chainsaw up the van, and Pepper gets, she tries to make a run for it down the road, and he catches up with her, kills her, but you don't actually see anything.
I didn't realize Pepper was made of feathers.
Yeah.
But the horrifying moment is when Leatherface turns around and he's wearing Kemper's face.
Now, I love that shot, and I think it's great. I mean, it really affects Erin psychologically. But this is the only shot. He'll take it off, and he'll put
go back to his normal face.
His normal face.
Yeah. Well, he did it just for this terrifying moment.
Yeah, but I think it lost the scariness for me for the rest of the film. This is like my 5th or 6th time of watching it, but I always kind of remembered that he had that mask on for the rest of the film. But now watching it, I'm like, no, he goes back to the one with the stitch in, which is more detailed. And when we saw him take it off, we did see Leatherface's face for a short glimpse. You know, he's missing his nose, he's missing some of his jaw. And I was just like, man, they should have just kept Kemper's face to be more to terrify Erin more. Going back to your old face,
yeah.
Why did we have to sit through that whole sequence?
Well, I mean, it's also on top of the fact that, like, I think it's even more horrifying for the audience, and it's terrifying for Aaron, obviously.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
There was that callback from the beginning when they were driving, and they mentioned about the ring.
Yeah.
And then when Leatherface was going through Kemper's belongings, found the ring.
Yes.
Now, Aaron never finds that.
No.
Never knows that he already had the ring and he was going to probably propose at this concert.
Yeah.
And so that is the horrifying moment for us as the audience going, like, there's Kemper dead, was going to propose. It's horrifying more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I also feel as well, when you get to the beginning and you have their relationship, they wanted to emphasize more on this loving relationship between a couple because they hadn't done it in this one. They just chopped them into pieces. But Erin makes her run and she comes across this trailer in the middle of the woods with the tea lady inside. This is just basically a large lady who is just oblivious to anything that's going on. And she's got, I think it's a daughter, Henrietta, there, who has this baby. Now, previously in a shot, we'd had the group come across, or they'd been lured by a horn, hadn't they, by a car horn sound.
Yeah.
And that's where they'd found this jar, and inside the jar was this picture of the girl from the beginning, and this family with this baby. And we see the baby there, and Erin realizes this, but she's already drunk some of the tea, which has drugged her, and she gets knocked out. She then wakes up at the Hewitt household, and you've got Hoyt just pouring beer on her face, trying to wake her up. This bit, it doesn't seem like.
Well, this is where you're expecting the family dinner scene.
That's what I was going to say.
But this film goes, you know what? We've already, like, there's been many attempts at redoing that.
Yeah.
Let's just not do it at all. And let's just have some more, I guess, torture moments.
Yeah. Because Erin goes down into, she gets taken down to the basement by Leatherface, and she comes across Andy there, and wow.
Yeah, I mean, he's already missing his leg. His kind of toes are like balancing slightly on the piano.
Did he mean to crucify him like that? Is it supposed to look religious, or it just happened fast?
I don't. I think he's holding his arms up there to help support himself.
Right.
Because,
okay. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Erin comes up to him, tries to lift him, can't lift him, so just stabs him.
Yeah,
And then his arms like fall down. So I was like, yeah, so he was just holding himself up as best as possible, probably.
That's it. Like, this girl was really strong. She couldn't climb onto the piano and lift him off, but he's actually telling her, like, look, you know, I'm missing a leg, I'm fucking dying, just kill me. And so she's like, I'll kill you now. I like I said, the progressive development of this character, that she's now willing on taking care of herself. But the fact that she had brothers, she'd been to juvie, I'm like, she's going to fucking kick ass anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then she eventually stumbles into Morgan as well, who's also been chained up.
Yeah.
And, of course, she tries to get him free, but, well, Leatherface turns back up again. I mean, there's lots of shots of just Jessica Biel just walking towards the camera or walking aside. I mean, she's very pretty to look at.
Yes, yes.
But there's lots of Jessica Biel just walking or running around. But eventually she is being chased by Leatherface again. Morgan pops up to try to help her. He ends up getting chained up, and Leatherface takes the chainsaw between his legs.
Yeah.
And raises it up, and of course it cuts away, so we don't really get to see all of the horribleness. But apparently it was intended, or they did shoot so that loads of intestines and guts and things all come flying out.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
But I was like, you know what? We don't need to see it. Like, again, sometimes the imagination, especially if we've already had some gory moments in the film, I was like, that was fun. I didn't need to see it.
And then Leatherface chases Erin pretty much back to the meatpacking plant that we'd seen them pass like 2 or 3 times. And she hides out in there and finds herself a meat cleaver. And I was kind of really surprised the first time I watched this that they would go this far to injuring Leatherface. Like, he'd already...
Permanently.
Yeah, he'd already fallen as he'd been chasing Erin to the meatpacking place and kind of cut his leg. That's like in the original. But she's hiding in a locker and she starts calling to him to come and get her. And so he's making his way back. And I just thought it was really stupid that he's just opening the doors individually just to look to where she is. Where I'm like, dude, you have a chainsaw and you've... Seriously, the guy playing Leatherface, Andrew Brynarski, I mean, he had some serious shape. You know, he beefed himself up for this role. And then they'd slapped a fat suit on top of him as well. So he said in his notes, like, you know, he was constantly trying to keep himself hydrated, but the mask was irritating and things like that. I did, when I was looking at his filmography, I was really, really surprised. Like, it was Zangief from
From
Street
Street Fighter,
Fighter.
yeah.
But he's also Max Shrek's son from Batman Returns.
That's right.
You know, working along Christopher Walken. I was like, wow, you've gone from this tiny shape to this massive, huge hulking mass. That's brilliant. But yeah, he opens up this last locker and Erin jumps out with the meat cleaver and she chops into his chainsaw arm and permanently injures him.
Yeah.
Like in the
Which cuts his arm off.
Yeah, that's it. With the release of the comic books that would come after this release of this film, he actually gets himself like this metal skeleton arm with a hook on the end to allow him to
rev the chainsaw
rev
still.
the chainsaw, and he's still got his good arm. I thought that was a great design. Erin finally does get away from Leatherface and she's running out into the road. And yeah, this kind of third act of the movie where she's doing all this running, there was a lot of water as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was like just coincidental. Jessica Biel, wet
Wearing
top,
white, getting wet,
yeah, like
running.
Not too much lighting though in places, but she comes across this big rig and she climbs on board. And much like the beginning of the movie, the driver is driving her to places that she's already escaped from, so she starts freaking out.
But then the driver stops, goes into the pig lady place from the beginning as well.
Yeah.
He's trying to explain, and Hoyt's there as well. Everyone, all the family's there, and he's trying to explain like, oh, there's a crazy hitchhiker I just picked up.
Yeah.
And so Hoyt's like, oh, wait a minute. God damn it, Thomas, you let her get away.
Yeah.
So he's like going and examining the truck. We get the POV from inside the truck. And then we quickly cut back to Erin as she's trying to hotwire the car.
Yeah.
There's a storm, there's rain coming down, so visibility's low. But if you're horror savvy, you're just like, she's not in that truck.
No.
She's hot wiring somewhere else. And so the moment Hoyt opens the truck, the cabin, and oh, Erin's not there. Oh, there she is. She's hot wired another vehicle. And you better get out of the way, Hoyt. Yeah, it's too late.
Yeah.
And just like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3,
Yeah.
The Next Generation, she just reverses over him and rides over him and reverses over him and makes sure he's dead.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the original as well, because one of them gets run
That's
over
right,
in the
the hitchhiker,
first one as
yeah,
well. Yeah. And she makes her escape, and then we get one last jump scare from Leatherface being there, swinging at her with his chainsaw. She bombs down the road, and she saved the baby from the picture. And you're just like, awesome! The final girl gets away.
Yeah. Satisfying.
Yeah.
But the film's not over quite yet, because
No.
now we cut back to the documentary from the beginning of the film as the police officer continues to make his way down into the damp basement. It's getting dark. It's eerie. He's still commentating. And then, boom, out of nowhere, we get a glimpse of Leatherface moving around in the darkness. Who's just killed the officer and then the cameraman. And then the narrator pretty much updates us like, yeah, they never found Leatherface. He's probably still out there.
Yeah.
Scary. Ian, what are your favourite scenes?
Oh man, I mean I've got a few, not many though, because obviously being a remake, a lot of it is just pretty much copying what I'd already seen in the original, and like we said, we think the original had just done it just a little bit tighter, but then that's just a given. The update for this one, I feel like I said, when Erin and Kemper go to the house, you get that initial shot of the house looking all imposing and whatnot, and then I suppose Kemper getting killed by Leatherface. You know, the hit to the head, the dragging behind the door. I also really like the fact you get that shot of Jessica Biel coming up to the door and seeing how tiny she is in comparison to this huge, massive metal door, which I was like, whoa, I don't think I'd never noticed how big the door was. You know, I also like the little kind of shots where Leatherface is like looking through the peephole, or he's looking through like a crack of wood in the wall, and then later on we'll cut to Erin when she's hiding in the locker and she's looking out as well. Just those close-ups where they're all kind of sweaty and scared, really like claustrophobic. Those were quite cool. I mean, it's a given. Hoyt, Ermey, you know, all of his scenes. I think he's kind of held back in this one in comparison to in the beginning. Where they just go like, to go balls to the walls. People already know your character. But then I suppose if you watch that one first and then come to this one, you already know it as well, but you're expecting more. The suicide sequence where he's got Morgan there with the gun in his mouth, intense. It must have been absolutely amazing to film that all day and turn the gun on him. And when you hear that click, it's not even like relief in his voice. Hoyt already knew. The way he just reaches and pulls his gun out all ready to kill Morgan, I'm like, he could just blow your fucking head off there and nobody would know. And yeah, my final favourite shot has to be that suicide sequence at the beginning. Blowing her head out, the camera flowing all the way through the effect and then out the window. And then when it cuts and you just see the smoke
coming out,
man.
yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, there's some great cinematography, some great shot composition. I think that is probably my favorite part of this film. Like, I love the shot when the van spins and skids to a stop underneath the tree.
Yeah.
There's a shot when the camera's panning across the wrecked vehicles and it looks like an old Volkswagen van from the original film is there as well. And I was like, because there's a few callbacks, but I was like, that's a nice little Easter egg right there. I like that. I like the sequence when they're running around. It feels like the foundations of the house. You've got all these cracked wooden beams with the light just shining through. There's some wonderful shots of Jessica Biel just running around.
Running.
Definitely a favorite scene.
Yes.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. Ermey absolutely steals every scene that he's in this film, and the one where he's got Morgan in the backseat of the van is, I think, the height of the best acting in the whole film.
Yeah.
His trembling lip as he's like just trying to hold it together, whilst Sheriff Hoyt is just dominating. His intimidation factor is through the roof, and he is probably the most frightening character in the entire franchise. So yeah, those were my real highlights. But in terms of the gore, I think like the bit that made me, I think Andy gets it the worst on screen that we see, because we stay with him after he loses his leg.
Yeah.
And then when he's being tortured, he gets the salt added to the wound, and then it gets wrapped up whilst he's up on the hook. So it's like, like, so when he's wishing for dead, you're like, yeah, I get it.
Just kill him, yeah.
Iain, do you recommend Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake?
I do recommend the remake, and I might have gone on about it a little bit too much, but I have to. I recommend the beginning and then the remake. Like, I saw this one first, then the beginning, but I always love to do it the other way round now, because it sets up all these characters brilliantly. We get the idea of where Thomas Leatherface came from, how long he's been doing this for, the setup of the town. We've got this house, we've got these teens being lured in. It's a great remake, because it's not so much a remake but more of an update. They take all of the things that we already seen and already knew and already were prepared to see again, but just twisted it. On top of that, Ermey as Sheriff Hoyt, he steals the position of the cook, I suppose, from 1 and 2, with the gift of the gab, his intimidation, presence, and just whenever he's on screen, you just feel horrible from the beginning to this one. When fucking Jessica Biel runs him over, you feel great. You're like, do it again. Make sure that motherfucker dead. I also like, just a quick callback, when he pulls out his teeth and he's like, look, we got matching teeth. In the beginning, he gets his teeth knocked out, doesn't he? It's absolutely brilliant. I love the guy playing Leatherface as well. I think he was really imposing. Maybe they could have done more with him, but they gave us just enough that the film was compact enough that after an hour and 35, hour and 40 minutes, I was happy.
Yes. I'm also going to be recommending the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 2003, as it's a solid horror remake with plenty of gore, suspense, and thrills, coupled with some great acting and cinematography. Jessica Biel is great as the final girl. She's very convincing, along with Jonathan Tucker, whom really sold the terror and helplessness incredibly well. It's Ermey, though, who steals every scene he's in, dominating the screen, and his victims. He is equally as frightening as Leatherface, who is also back to being a monster of a force of nature as he slices and dices his way through these characters. It's a very well shot film, and having the original cinematographer back to recreate the nightmare again more than succeeds in several areas. By flipping his style and aiming for that MTV generation with darker blacks and subdued colors. I mean, it really is a well-shot horror piece with dread hanging off of every frame. So yeah, I really like this a lot. It's very entertaining, it's stunning to look at, and it delivers the horror. Now, I'll say I still prefer the original, but this is a worthy update that is certainly worth a watch. Inspired by a true story. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
smell bullshit.